Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here with another Master Duel video for you guys. So I did promise in a recent video that we would be coming back to Tri-Brigade in the near future, and here we are back with Tri-Brigade branded. Tri-Brig branded? I keep wanting to like shorten the name to something like that. I'm sure I'll come up with something, but yeah, we're back on Tri-Brigades, and Tri-Brigade is actually looking not too shabby in this current format. The addition of the branded support, while a relatively small engine in the deck, actually does pack quite a punch. And it's a very low commitment like engine. You might think like, oh, it might end up being like super involved, but it's really just the Fallen of Albaz, Tri-Brigade Mercourier, Albion the Shrouded Dragon, Branded Fusion, and Branded Sword for the main deck. That's 5 cards, and then extra deck, the Brigand the Glory Dragon, Albion the Braided Dragon, and Mirrorjade the Iceblade Dragon there. So oh, and then of course the Verte, but we were already running Verte for DPE, which we're not running anymore, nor are we running the Zodiac cards anymore. Because we don't have room mostly in the extra deck. It's really more the extra deck, just thinking about the Zodiacs, because Zodiacs only took up 3 spaces in the main deck. But yeah, extra deck, we don't have enough room for the Xyz engine as well as all this other stuff. But yeah, the branded engine with Tri-Brigades, I've actually been liking it quite a bit. And basically, there's a combo you can do with either Fraktall plus Kitt, or I think it can be a Nervall as well, but I typically see it with Fraktall plus Kitt, or if you got a Rescue Cat. I've said in the past that Rescue Cat I'm not a huge fan of in Tri-Brigade because it can get negated so easily, and it eats up your normal summon, and generally if you normal summon Cat and then use it and it gets negated, you're just kind of done for the turn. Typically, not always, but that is still the weakness of Rescue Cat. I do think Rescue Cat is at least a little bit better in this particular build, because it is a 1-card variant of the combo that allows you to open with the Mirrorjade plus Revolt setup, and then that combo also gets you a Mercourier in hand as well. Yeah, so anyway, the idea is that, yeah, we're trying to set up both the Mirrorjade plus the Revolt for the Shrouded for maximum banishes and maximum disruption as a whole. Now, for the Mirrorjade, we're typically not sending the Albion here, actually. We're actually going to normally send the Brigand, because then that will allow you to special summon a Tri-Brigade monster during the end phase, so that way even if your Mirrorjade gets answered, Mirrorjade is actually especially, I mean, it's especially strong in general, but it's especially useful to Tri-Brigades here if it does end up getting removed, because, you know, obviously you'll use the disruption effect, it's in the Brigand, and then during the end phase, not only do you get to wipe your opponent's board, but then you get to start with a Tri-Brigade on your board as well. So it's one of many ways in which Mirrorjade is great, that, you know, if your opponent gets over it, they have to kind of win that turn, because if they don't, you're just going to be able to come back. And that is actually, sorry, I bumped the desk there. And that is actually especially true of this particular build, because of, again, your ability to summon a Tri-Brigade out from the deck as well. Being able to wheel the Mercourier back to your hand using the Branded Sword is also very nice, because then, of course, you have the Mirrorjade on board, and it provides an extra monster negate in the hand there. Yeah, as far as the rest of the build goes, again, if I had 3 Rescue Cats crafted, I would definitely run them. I didn't want to invest all those Ultra Craft points, like, just for the one deck. I don't know that this is a deck I'm going to be coming back to, like, a lot, but if it does end up being the case, you know, I'm not afraid to craft maybe, like, 1 or 2 Rescue Cats to play in the deck here. In the meantime, I'm just kind of using more disruption, like these PSY-Frames. You know, I'm using both DD Crow and Veiler, you know, Veiler, Imperm just being very, very good tools in this current format, with all the branded stuff running around, as well as Sword Souls as well. As far as the extra deck, otherwise, though, it's fairly, you know, similar to what it was before. You know, we're still seeing all the same Link monsters that we used before. Playing a PSY-Frame Lord Omega to go with these PSY-Frames here. If I wasn't playing the PSY-Frames, then obviously I wouldn't play the Omega. I'd probably just play like a second Ferrijit. There are times where you can end up using 2, but it's not like so often that, you know, it comes up. Basically, it comes up, you know, little enough that I wanted to try the tech Omega just in case that came up, but didn't really have a game where it did, but that's all right. Yeah, the build itself is fairly standard as far as what Tri-Brigade brand is trying to do, except for the omission of Rescue Cats. Most builds, again, are playing Rescue Cat, and again, if you do own copies of Rescue Cat, I would definitely advise playing them in the build. DD Crow in particular also very good in this current format because of Branded in red. You know, if their opponent activates Branded in red, you can chain the DD Crow to banish the card they're targeting, and then they're not able to, obviously they're not able to get it back, right? And then you get to, yeah, screw them over in that regard. Also being a wing beast and level 1, it's Well, the level 1 is... I was so used to it being used in Tri-Brigade Leerless that I mentioned it being level 1. That's not really relevant to this build, but it being a Winged Beast is, because obviously it can be banished for Tri-Brigade effects and also be searched by Shrouded occasionally as well. So, yeah, I think that's about all I've got to say about the build itself. Let's go ahead and break it down card by card before we take a look at some gameplay. So we are playing 1 PSY-Frame Driver, 1 DD Crow, 1 Effect-Veiler, 3 Tri-Brigade Nervall, 3 Maxx, 2 PSY-Frame Gear Gamma, 2 Tri-Brigade Kerass, 3 Tri-Brigade Kitt, 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 1 Fallen of Albaz, 2 Tri-Brigade Fraktall, 1 Tri-Brigade Mercourier, 1 Albion the Shrouded Dragon, 1 Nibiru the Primal Being, 1 Harpie's Feather Duster, 1 Foolish Burial, 1 Branded Fusion, 2 Fire Formation Tenki, 2 Call by the Grave, 1 Crossout Designator, 2 Forbidden Droplet, 3 Infinite Impermanence, 1 Tri-Brigade Revolt, and 1 Branded Sword. Extra deck will have 1 Brigand the Glory Dragon, 1 Albion the Branded Dragon, 1 Mirrorjade the Iceblade Dragon, 1 PSY-Frame Lord Omega, 1 Salamangreat Almiraj, 1 Predaplant Verte Anaconda, 1 Ancient Warrior's Oath Double Dragon Lords, 1 Ferrijit the Barren Blossom, 1 Tri-Brigade Bearbrumm the Rampant Rampager, 1 Hraesvelgr the Desperate Doom Eagle, 1 Tri-Brigade Rugal the Silver Sheller, 1 Appaloosa Bow of the Goddess, 1 Access Code Talker, and then of course 2 Tri-Brigade Shrouded the Ominous Omen. Alright, now that we have covered the build here, let's go and take a look at some games. Alright, this game is going to be quite the back and forth actually against the Live Twins. This was a 10-turn game, so not often you see those in, well, Yu-Gi-Oh! Period. So, yeah, definitely nice to get one in here. Opponent's going to be taking the first turn. We've got a nice going second hand here. Obviously, we could use some gas for our turn, but opening Veiler plus C here is definitely not a bad option, for going second. So, opponent's going to add and then summon Alila. I'm going to start with the Effect Veiler here before I activate Maxx. I definitely want to get the negate over the draws here, just because, yeah, I could get a bunch of draws, and probably my opponent just wouldn't set up under the Maxx, but if possible, I'd like to just prevent the play. Actually, given what my hand looked like, and maybe the draws would have been better, but in any case, typically, I like to shut down plays more than draw off of them, if given the choice between Maxx and another hand trap, so that's what I did in this case. But here I'm going to use Kitt. Opponent does have an Ash, but I've got the Call by and the Crossout, so I'm not really concerned about the Ash Blossom here. Definitely want to use this Kitt's effect to set my graveyard up here, but then my opponent uses a Ghost Spell, which I shouldn't be too surprised given that it's Live Twin. They actually do pretty often play Ghost Spell, but I do not have one in my deck, so I cannot cross it out, so I still think it was right to play Call by over Crossout here. Excuse me. Because Crossout does, generally tend to be the more versatile of the two. Mostly for being able to stop like Nibiru and Imperm are the main reasons I like keeping Crossout over Call by, but this did just happen to be a scenario where the it would have been better the other way around. So yeah, all the opponent has Alila, but I don't really have anything more than that. Definitely don't want to summon this Maxx, so I'm just going to keep it in hand. They can definitely keep battling, against me for 500 damage a turn. That's totally fine. Although I will say I am not 100%, I'm not feeling I'm 100% in the clear here, because if my opponent is drawing cards and not, getting gas to accelerate their plays, it means they're just drawing disruption because this is Live Twin. So I do have to be mindful of, those 3 cards in their hand being hand traps and other disruption tools. Here. So, opponent's going to activate Sunny Snitch. Normally, I advocate Ash Blossoming the actual Live Twin itself, but my opponent's already got Leela on the field, so I think they're just going to add the Kiss to Kill Frost anyway. And because I know they don't have any other plays in their hand, because obviously they haven't been making plays, I'm fine Ash Blossoming the Sunny Snitch here. Normally, I don't advise that. Normally, again, I do advise Ash Blossoming the Live Twin itself, but in this specific scenario, I think hitting the Sunny Snitch here with the Ash was definitely right. So, do another Ash. I'll keep it in hand again. I'm not really concerned about taking 500 damage. I said this was a back and forth duel, but I guess I already just meant it was a longer one. Where, kind of neither the opponent or I are really drawing a whole lot here. I do have a Fraktall, finally. Opponent's going to go ahead and drop their Ash Blossom, but I fortunately have a Crossout Designator here. Here's where the back and forth starts, right? Because this whole time we've just been, stocking up on hand traps and responses and disruptions. So now that I'm finally doing something, I feel like here's where finally the opponent's gonna have some things to say about that. So I'm gonna use the Fraktall to start setting up my graveyard here. Since I've already got the Revolt down, I'm pretty confident that I'm gonna be able to win this turn even. with the Shrouded plus access code setup. I'll flip up the Imperm here to stop this face down card and just hit the Leela. I really thought my opponent had more responses. Maybe that's a later game I'm thinking of where I had a longer chain link, but I guess they don't here. So yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and go for the access code talker. I'm kind of lulling my opponent into a false sense of security, making them think that maybe they're not going to be dead this turn, which is why I kind of just going for access code first. I just want to see what I can get away with before I flip up the Revolt here. I'll even move into the battle phase. Again, not only to lull my opponent into a false sense of security, but there are enough cards just out there that can only be used during the main phase that if I can get the, last summon off in the battle phase for lethal, I think that's a little bit more preferred, but that's kind of a more niche reason to, do it in the battle phase, but yeah, whatever. It doesn't really matter either way. So, yeah, here I'll just summon the Shrouded. Opponent's got an Imperm at this point, but yeah, no, it's definitely more than a little bit too late. Actually, could they not have used the Imperm? Oh no, because I flipped my Imperm on it. That's right. I was gonna say, couldn't they have used the Imperm to reduce my access code talker's attack? But no, of course, I had already forgotten that I Impermed that Imperm wow, inadvertently. I'd Imperm that Imperm inadvertently. Tried to say that sentence 3 times fast. Good lord. So yeah, that was a nice game against Liveswin there with the Tri-Brigade branded deck there. It's funny, we didn't even really use the branded engine that game, but that just kind of goes to show that Tri-Brigade itself is still a very, very solid package here. Like, yes, it got power crept out, but at the same time, that still doesn't make the deck any weaker, right? Like, Tri-Brigade is still, it's been solid this whole time. It's still a solid rogue option. I think it mostly just is forgotten about because, people have moved on to bigger and better decks by and large. It's funny because that'll tending to happen with decks like Tri-Brigade, whereas like a deck like Blue Eyes is rogue, but is a fan favorite, so we'll like consistently see play at the rogue tier. But Tri-Brigade is one of those decks where it's like, yeah, there's a lot of people who love it, myself included. It's probably still my favorite deck, honestly, but they might not necessarily come back to it as often or at all, just because it's not like it doesn't have like that nostalgia, I guess, quote unquote, to it, and is also again been kind of more or less power crept out of the format a little bit there. But yeah, it's gonna go ahead and do it for this game. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next one. All right, so this game is going to be against everyone's favorite Burbs, of course, Floowandereeze. Actually, jeez, if I can talk. I actually really like being able to show games against Floowandereeze because I feel like it's a pretty popular, not just matchup, but also matchup that people are specifically looking for advice on how to play against it and stuff. So I'm going to lead with Tenki here, even though I've already got the other Fraktall in my hand, just to see if I can bait out Nash, or maybe see if my opponent's got Nash Blossom. See if they get a prompt to respond. They didn't, so I'm just going to go ahead and use the Fraktall here. I'll just go ahead and get a normal graveyard set up here with the Fraktall and or for the Kitt for the Nervall, then normal summoning the Kitt, banishing 2 for the Ferrijit here. I can go for Ferrijit because I've got the other Fraktall in hand. I can just use the Fraktall's onboard effect. And actually, I think this is a game where I can even get the setup for the Mirrorjade as well. I should be able to, just looking at what I've already got on board here. So here's basically how you do a Mirrorjade setup, right? It involves getting out the Bearbrumm plus pretty much any 2 other monsters, right? Because the idea is that we're going to use our other 2 monsters. Here I just used a double Dragon Lords for another material here, but using our 2 effect monsters, we're going to go ahead and link into oh, sorry, I went for Rugal here. I thought I was going for the Predaplant Verte Anaconda. Ah, yes, I'm going to do it here. Using the Bearbrumm effect to go for the Kitt. I actually didn't need to do that. I could have just gone for the Verte Anaconda. I just realized that just now. I don't know why I went for the Rugal there. That was definitely a waste of those 2 cards in my hand, which were actually pretty valuable resources. So, yeah, don't do what I did and throw away your Veiler and Droplet for no reason. We could have just gone for those cards and gone for, with those 2 cards and gone for Verte Anaconda. Again, you're just looking to end on a board state where you have both Verte Anaconda and Bearbrumm, because we can use Verte Anaconda to send a Branded Fusion. And remember, Branded Fusion doesn't just fuse from the deck, it can be hand, deck, or field. So what we're going to do is we're going to fuse the Bearbrumm on our field with the Albaz in our deck. That is the key to setting up Mirrorjade plus Revolt. That's like the main gist of what you need to know there, right? Is that we're doing the Verte Anaconda for Branded while we have the Bearbrumm up, and then we're sending the Bearbrumm with the Branded Fusion to set up again both the Revolt and the Mirrorjade for extra disruption there. So who's going to lead with a Pot of Extravagance? It's going to kind of be a dead giveaway that they're some sort of disruption, or not disruption necessarily, but stun deck. And then of course the duality in and of itself is enough to more or less confirm that they are Floowandereeze, which the Eaglin also does. So as soon as they activate the map here, I'm actually going to go ahead and flip up Revolt to go and banish it, because I'm really not trying to deal with this map right now, or ever, honestly, but especially right now. That now they've added the Eaglin, I don't want them to get that Rabina set up, and I feel like that's what they're trying to do here. So even though we have, you know, 2 of our zones occupied, the cool thing about setting up Revolt in this deck is that you can usually do it with only 3 cards, because you typically hard summon the Bearbrumm there. What I mean by that is that you actually summon the Bearbrumm using 2 monsters as link materials, as opposed to using the Tri-Brigade effect, which is what determines whether or not you can bring a link monster back using Revolt's effect. Or in general, you know, it's a rule that you cannot summon extra deck monsters back from the graveyard unless they were properly summoned first. Summoning an extra deck monster off of a Tri-Brigade's effect is not a quote-unquote proper summon, or a hard summon as I refer to it. So in that regard, it cannot be used that way. So not only are we able to actually search up or get a Shrouded to banish the map here, but we're even able to search up the Mercourier to negate the Rabina, which I didn't anticipate my opponent would have. I thought they were just going to have to normal summon Eaglin, but you know, we got to search anyway, so I decided to just grab the Mercourier on the off chance they had the Rabina. Even if we didn't grab the Mercourier there, we would definitely still be able to stop their plays when they went to normal summon the Eaglin. We could have used the Mirrorjade's effect to then banish one of the 2 birds on board. That way they aren't able to tribute summon for 2 for the M-Pen, because they'll only have 1 bird on the board. So we had multiple ways of disrupting the opponent there, but the Rabina negate is going to be enough to get them to concede, which is definitely, you know, what we like to see from Floowandereeze, right? Just the concede. Alright, let's go and take a look at the next game. Hey, speaking of Floowandereeze, we actually have another game against them. I didn't realize I had 2, I thought I only had the 1, but like I said earlier, we always love to see games against Floowandereeze. Just in general, we always love to take out anti-meta decks there during showcases. Again, at least I like to, because again, I know a lot of people ask, like, what do you do when you play against like Floowandereeze, or like going second against like a stun deck here? Well, I guess in this case we just opened Effect Valor, so. But I mean, again, we are playing 1 Valor and 3 Imperm to counter all the decks that are really good against it. Here our opponent actually has a really interesting tech in Sarveris, the Ancient and Ascended. I guess this is like they're using this in lieu of the Crossout Designators that got hit during the ban list there. It's not an awful tech. I don't think it's a particularly good one, but I don't think it's an awful tech. And I'm not just saying that because I had Valor plus Imperm. That was just me being lucky, but I do think this is a little bit narrow of an answer to use here, honestly. Just a smidgen, so I don't know if I would in my Floowandereeze build, but I don't think it's terrible either. I don't think it's like a wrong choice or anything, so. Oh yeah, here we open Nervall plus Mercourier, so because we open another Tri-Brigade monster, we can do the Kerass play here, where we, you know, normal summon the Mercourier, or another Mercourier, the Nervall, send that off to the Almiraj, Almiraj search the Kerass, then because we have another Tri-Brigade card again, we can just go ahead and set that up there, so. Also got a Tenki as well for the Fraktall, and of course we got the branded sword set up here too, so I can just wheel the Mercourier back to my hand right away. Alright, yeah, I'm just going to load up the graveyard a little bit more here for, you know, more plays, more banishes in general, before going into Hraesvelgr. Yeah, because it's turn 2, we can just go ahead and go for an OTK here. Pretty easy peasy. We're going to use the Nervall to summon the Shrouded. Shrouded will obviously banish the Eaglin, and then we can just link away the Hraesvelgr and the Nervall for the access code. Yet another game where you didn't have to rely on the branded engine at all. It just kind of goes to show that, like, access code plus Shrouded is just a very powerful combination. Of course, not only in terms of being, you know, 8,300 damage, enough to OTK, but also being able to clear out a board as you're preparing to OTK, like setting up for the OTK as well. So, yeah, no, we always love to see, again, just those wins against Floowandereeze. But in general, again, like I pointed out earlier, we don't even need to rely on the branded engine. Like, yes, the branded engine is what is pushing Tri-Brigade up to see more play overall, but in terms of power level, the Tri-Brigade cards themselves are definitely still enough to keep up with the meta. They are still a little behind, I guess, the power level of what the meta is at. Just a smidgen, though. Like, I think much less than a lot of people give credit for. A lot of people like to pretend that, like, Tri-Brigade is a dead deck, that Tri-Brigade is, like, not able to keep up at all. I definitely don't think that's true. I definitely do still think it is a deck worth considering. And honestly, with the branded stuff added, it creeps its way up from Rogue, I think, even up to, like, tier 3. I would definitely expect to see this particular variant of Tri-Brigade around more in the future. But yeah, we've got one more game, so let's go ahead and take a look at that here. Alright, this last duel here is going to be against a 60 card hero variant, which we love to see. I love to see anyway. I love heroes. I don't really feel like I need to say anything more than that. I love heroes. I wish they weren't so expensive to build in Master Duel. That is the other thing I need to say. Like, oh, I wish that deck was not so expensive to build in this game. Doesn't mean I'll never build it, but it definitely like puts me off from going into it. But in any case here, I've got a Foolish Burial, so I'm going to go ahead and use that to set up my graveyard a bit. And I'll end up searching a Kerass here. Now I can roll some of this kit. Especially the Ferrijit, and I didn't need to search the Kerass here, I guess, for that particular reason. I could have searched any other Tri-Brigade, but I just grabbed the Kerass because, you know, why not? So, yeah, here we can go ahead and use the Ferrijit for a little bit of cycling. And now that I've loaded up my graveyard some more, we can banish those two with Kerass for the Bearbrumm. And now we can link the Rugal and Kerass away for the Verte Anaconda. This is yet another game we're going to get the Mirrorjade set up here. Now this time we didn't hard summon the Bearbrumm, we you know, summoned it off a Tri-Brigade effect, but we hard summoned the Rugal, so I mean, we're also going to have 4 zones open anyway, so we're not going to be hindered by that limitation, but as I said, one way or another you end up hard summoning a Link monster most of the time with the Mirrorjade combos, so you usually don't have to worry about board space too much. And yeah, we got 3 back rows on top of that, you know, of course one of them being the Revolt, but I guess 2 other back rows, the Droplet and the Imperm as well, so yeah, the opponent can drop with the Mirrorjade here, but they also drop with the Verte for some reason. But my opponent can drop with the Mirrorjade here. I'm not scared. That's totally fine. Gonna normal summon these Stratos here. I'll actually flip up the Impermanent response. I don't even necessarily feel the need to revolt just yet, right? I'm fine just negating and then seeing what my opponent tries to do next, and then maybe revolting them at a better moment when they have they're more like resource committed, or they have a more valuable resource in general on the board. That's basically kind of why I'm waiting again with the revolt here. So summoning the Cross Crusader, this is fine. It will allow them to kind of like recycle their malicious a little bit, but like, yeah, it's not that big of a deal. I'm not concerned with it. Yep, as they then go to add Zephyris, sending the Liquid Soldier. Here I will actually drop with the Ferris, though. I'll give up my Verte Anaconda, because I don't really need it anymore, and with how low its attack is, like, it's just a little bit of a liability. I mean, it's got low attack in general, not just because of the Droplet there, but, yeah, not really sure why my opponent attacks here, but that's totally fine, and, yeah, they don't really have any other plays to follow up with, so, that's why I like to save the Revolt. This is actually another good reason why, or ended up being another good reason to have saved the Revolt. Obviously, I didn't know my opponent was going to max C, but you know, a Maxx during the end phase is definitely much less impactful than a Maxx during the opponent's main phase 1 there, so. But yeah, so again, as you can see, the hero player, due to the disruption we already had, wasn't really able to do a whole lot. Which again is another reason why I like to save, or one of the main reasons why I like to hold on the Revolt there, and not necessarily flip it up in response to the first thing. Because I think some people might have seen that Stratos and then flipped up the Imperm, but then also the Revolt, just to like, you know, play it as soon as possible. I kind of notice that sometimes when I play against their Tri-Brigade decks, where they'll use Revolt kind of weirdly in that way. I think it comes from a desire just like, you know, oh, let's go ahead and get this out of the way while, you know, we're still thinking about it, but. Or maybe some kind of mentality like that, but it is typically better to wait, in my opinion, just to make sure your opponent's got something that's really worth banishing before you go ahead and pull the trigger on the banish there. So, alright, that is it for the gameplay. Let us now go ahead and move on to the outro. Alright, thanks everybody for watching all the way to the very end like this. I greatly appreciate that, not only personally, but just as a, or not only as a means to support the channel, rather, but also personally. It just means a lot when you all watch to the very end like that. Especially for Tri-Brigades, like we love Tri-Brigades, so if you have any suggestions for the build, comments, definitely throw them in the comments below. Suggestions for build / gameplay. It only just now occurred to me that I didn't really get to show off like the main quote-unquote combo with this deck, where, you know, again, I mentioned it, I touched on it, where if you open Fraktall plus a Tri-Brigade or a Rescue Cat, you can actually set up not only just the Mirrorjade and the Revolt, but also a Mercourier in hand as well, so maybe we'll have to revisit this deck and show off that combo, and maybe we'll have crafted some Rescue Cats by then, who knows. Again, if this deck is... I had a lot of fun playing this deck, and if you all want to see it that badly again, definitely let me know, and I will be more than happy to oblige. Yeah, I could even craft one Rescue Cat just to show off that variant of the combo. we could have an excuse to update our Tri-Brigade combo. I mean, I'm always looking for any excuse to play more Tri-Brigade, so I'm almost like begging you in a way to ask me to play it more in that regard. So we'll probably come back to it at some point. I mean, we'll definitely come back to Tri-Brigade at some point in the future, either way. So, and then, yeah, subscribing. Another thing that means a lot to me, not only personally, but as a means of supporting the channel there. And also gives you notifications of when my videos drop, which does happen every single day. So if you subscribe, you do get a daily Master Duel out of me, or Master Duel video out of me. But yeah, like I said, that's about all the time I've got for this one. So yep, without further ado, this is XLex. I'm signing out, and I hope you guys have a fantastic day.